The Heisman is one of my favorite awards in all sports. I get tired of talking about the NFL MVP. I get tired of talking about the NBA MVP. It just feels like a draining conversation. But when we're talking about college football in the premier award, what the best achievement a player can get is the Heisman. And it's not a perfect award. And it doesn't have a perfect history either. And they finally came around and gave Reggie Bush his Heisman back, which is just, I'm not going down that rabbit hole, but thank God they finally did something about that. And I think the best way for me to decipher going into 2024, who is going to be my Heisman favorite? I'm not going off of the betting odds outside of the list of players I just made for this tier list. I'm not going off the betting odds. I'm going off of the situation and what has history told us about the Heisman. And I did something like this last year. I didn't make a video about it, but it got me to, Bo Nix was my pick and he made it to New York. And so hopefully I could be a little accurate this year, even though I feel like 2024, if I were to predict, is even more of a mixed bag than we've had in any other year. Just because the guys at the very top, I'm not 100% confident that they're these lock best players in the country that are going to end up winning the Heisman. Yes, they're quarterbacks on contending teams, but do I really think they're going to take the next step to be these guys that are going to be hoisting that trophy in December? So as we dive in, you see the board. I got 22 players, some of which didn't make like the top 10 of like the Heisman betting odds, but I thought they should be in the conversation. And let's just go through the tier list of like what each tier is going to mean. Rush the Field's Heisman favorite. It's going to be a one spot tier. This is going to be the last spot at the very end of the video of, I'm going to grab everyone that I think could potentially be in that New York invites tier. And I'm going to pick one guy that's going to be my favorite and who I think has a real shot at winning the Heisman. And I think it's pretty clear with the invites here. It's guys that I think could be in that finalist contention. Guys that I think have a honest shot at, maybe being in that voting tier. Maybe they got a shot at it, but I just don't think that I want to have a bunch of guys that I think could be favorites. I want to have a laundry list of potential invitations and then pick my favorite. Then we go down to the I could see it. The I could see it is I could see them being a finalist. Maybe I'm not as high on them, but they have the talent to do so. Maybe I'm lower on the team, but I could be wrong. This is the beauty of the sport is there's plenty of cases where you're going to be wrong on a team and it gets completely flipped on its head and they end up being, maybe even the Heisman winner. So there's that tier of I could see it, but I'm not personally going to put my money towards it. The down the line tier are guys that I think are a lot younger that, maybe not this year. Maybe it's their junior year, the prime year for them to take that next step. We've seen it all the time. A young player takes that step that we didn't expect. And, maybe I want to recognize that talent, but I don't think I would bet the house that, they could make it to New York, that they want to be in that potential contention to win the Heisman. And then obviously it's pretty clear the not a chance tier is just, I don't think you got a shot. So let's go ahead and dive in. I thought the best guy to start it off with was the odds-on favorite right there with Carson Beck, but we'll talk about Carson Beck down the line, is Quinn Ewers. Now, a lot of people expected him to return to college. A lot of people thought, maybe this year was the best year for him to hop into the NFL. And then the season went on and you kind of saw the same inconsistencies, but you saw some steps. I've said the same thing about Quinn Ewers for a couple months now of, he's super, super talented. Has he met the mark for what Texas expected of him? Yeah, but also that's not really true. The expectations we're talking about like what an all-time best quarterback is. He was one of the best high school athletes ever, point blank period. And he's just kind of hit the mark. It reminds me a lot of T-Law in the NFL right now. A guy that is super, super talented, but just, has only scratched the surface of what he truly could be. And with the situation in Texas just being almost perfect for him, he's an automatic invite, but I wouldn't, not to spoil anything, I don't know if he's the favorite, in all honesty. So I think he's a invitation lock just because how could you screw up? Barring injury, to be fair, he's been injured in back-to-back years for just a brief amount of times. Like, it hasn't been like season ending, but there's been injury concerns. I think it's going to be really difficult for him to not be one of the four best players in the country. Whether you agree that the Heisman finalist is what deciphers that, I'm just saying for the sake of this award. Ollie Gordon is an interesting case. I like Ollie Gordon. And when I'm building out this Heisman tier list, he had a great year last year. And he's going to probably put a lot of great statistical numbers next year or this following season. And overall, like, I could see it. I really could. It's just tough with running backs. And I don't think that Oklahoma State is going to be as good enough of a team. And I think, honestly, last year outside, I wouldn't say last year was a down year, but I would just say, like, he's going to put up great numbers. I just don't know, when you're a running back and you put up great numbers, you kind of have to be on a great team. And honestly, with the 12-team playoff, that's a big curveball. The 12-team playoff is the biggest curveball with the Heisman this year. It's just like, you're going to be in contention in a lot more conversations because your team doesn't have to be in that top four. Your team doesn't have to be one of the best. Maybe you're just a team that surprised a lot of people and is in that conversation of being one of the top 12 teams, and you're the reason why. What does that do with the Heisman? Does that mean that a lot more guys are going to have that argument? When it comes to Ollie Gordon, I could see it. I just don't know if I could just slot him in as a finalist lock. Jalen Milroe. As I've gone through the offseason and as I continue to, build my predictions, build my evaluations of these teams, Kalen DeBoer just wins everywhere. That Alabama roster is super talented. There's always the stories about how much of a leader Jalen Milroe is. And I begin to, what are the pieces that you want to be able to see with a potential Heisman winner? Outside of the out of the blue, you never saw it coming type of winner, what are some of the ingredients to curate a Heisman winner? And I think Jalen Milroe hits all the pieces. Did he have an inconsistent year last year? Of course. Hell, he even got benched. But the dude has some of the best talent in the country. Obviously, we know about the mobility. But the dude's got a cannon of an arm. It's just whether or not he can consistently use it. When he does, he looks like one of the best players in the country, regardless of position. And that's why when we're looking through the list of players that potentially could win it outside of the favorites, because in all honesty, like, it's tough to bet on the favorite, even though the odds are the lowest. On top of that, since Eric Crouch, I believe from Nebraska, he is the only guy that had the preseason odds-on favorite to win the Heisman and then ended up doing so. And I just think in the past 25 years, the odds that happens again with a guy like Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers is relatively low. So why not, throw the curveball and go for the high upside guy like Jalen Milroe? So I think he's going to be potentially one of the best players in the country. And, he might be my Heisman favorite. I haven't made that full prediction, but the dude has all the reason to, buy stock into. And that's why he's such an exciting player to talk about. Let's talk about Jackson Dart, because Jackson Dart, in all honesty, when we look at the Heisman picture, he's pretty high up there. I mean, like, for good reason. And you look at all the different pieces that could be working in his favor. A Lane Kiffin offense has been known to adapt. We talk about, Lane Kiffin as this high-octane offense, but how is he scoring points has changed over the years. With Judkins, it was more of a power running offense. And obviously with Corral, it was a pass offense. I think when Judkins leaves, it doesn't mean that they're going to ignore the run like they used to, but I think they're going to really lean on Jackson Dart. And he has all the talent. I mean, we're talking about a former USC quarterback that is finally, getting used to being in the system. I think last year it was almost seen as a potential quarterback debate with the amount of quarterbacks who are transferring into Ole Miss. He's the guy that stood tall and is the leader of this team. And I think when we talk about the hype behind this award, and a lot of people look at a guy like Shedeur Sanders in Colorado and they see the hype and fans want to buy into it. And as much as it could frustrate people, it matters when we're talking about the Heisman, a narrative-based award damn near at this point, with the production backing it. And Jackson Dart's going to have the production. He's going to be playing the best of the best in the SEC. A 12-team playoff allows for Ole Miss to potentially be in conversations that they're not used to being in versus what was expected of a 4-team playoff. And I hate to say it, I think in 2024, people are going to love Lane Kiffin. This team's going to be fun, and they're going to have all the pieces around him to succeed. Man, Jackson Dart, there's a reason why he's getting Heisman hype, and he could realistically be a New York finalist, and it would not shock me whatsoever. Let's keep it pushing, though. I don't want to be sitting on a bunch of players, and this ends up being like a 40-minute video. Garrett Nussmeier, I think it's pretty straightforward. I could see it. And also, this is not one of those tier lists where like left is way more like, I guess like if I had to rank them, it wouldn't be like right now Jalen Milrose number one and then it goes I start. It's just tiers because I wanted to decipher a little bit down the line. But I'm gonna throw Garrett Nussmeier. There's a lot of hype with LSU when we're talking about the offense and the passing offense. I think Nussmeier is going to be great. I think he's not going to be what concerns me about LSU. And what stops me from saying that he's going to be a New York invite, and I could see it just because maybe he goes crazy this year and he becomes an invitation, but I don't think he wins it because a couple of reasons. I don't know if LSU's defense is going to be improved enough for this team to be good enough. Maybe the 12-team playoff, like I've said for other quarterbacks, that can mean a big thing. Like it could change the game. But on the flip side, I don't know. When we're talking about Jaden Daniels was just there. He threw, I believe it was 4,000 yards, rushed for 1,000, had one of the best statistical years we've ever seen. Nussmeier is not going to be like that dynamic down the field running the ball. And so he's going to have to put up insane passing stats. And I think when you lose two NFL wide receivers, I love Kyron Lacy. Kyron Lacy is one of my favorite players in the country. If you were to buy stock into a wide receiver, Kyron Lacy, do it now. You just trust the process when it comes to LSU wide receivers. But I don't expect like the Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors type of year. And so I could see it because he's talented and he's in an offense that he's comfortable in and he's shown flashes, but I wouldn't feel like 110% confident. It's not a situation of down the line because he's going to be entering his fourth year. And I wouldn't be disrespectful and say it's not a chance because I think he has the talent to have some chance. Carson Beck. I'm going to say I could see it. Yeah, I think he's the most important player in the country. He's going to be the changing factor, the thing that's going to make either Georgia a national title contender or a winner if he takes that next step. But I don't know if he's going to be that guy that's going to be the driving force to, be a Heisman winner. I think he could be a really, really good player. To be fair, Stetson Bennett was a finalist. So I could see a world where he ends up being in this invitation and the back half of the voting catalog, but I just don't see this world where he deserves to be this odds-on favorite. I get it. He's a quarterback on a championship level team. And Georgia, to be fair, on the outside and the skill positions, seems to be the most talented they've been in a very long time, at least in the Kirby Smart era. I just need to see a wide receiver go for 1,000 yards. We haven't seen that in, I believe, a couple decades, that a Georgia wide receiver passes 1,000 yards. It's no disrespect to Carson Beck. And I think he's one of the best quarterbacks, but we're talking with the narrative of a Heisman. I don't know if he fits the bill. He could still be an elite level quarterback, but you also don't fit the bill of what is expected out of a Heisman winner. I could see it. He's going to be at the very top of that list, but I wouldn't feel 110% confident that he's going to guarantee himself an invitation to New York. Dillon Gabriel, on the other hand, though. Man, Dillon Gabriel. I'm going to throw him in the invitation list because of the match of Oregon's going to be really good. Oregon's going to have a lot of opportunity in some marquee games in the Big Ten, especially against Ohio State. Dillon Gabriel and everything he's going to be asked to in that offense is very similar to what Bo Nix is going to be asked to, and he has the talent to do so. I don't think he has as big of an arm as Bo Nix, but I think he has more mobility than Bo Nix. So I think if you just place that, the defense is going to be better at Oregon. He's going to put up incredible statistical numbers. And he's a veteran quarterback. And I think every single year we've seen a veteran quarterback transfer and, blossom into a player that is enough to be in that Heisman contention. Obviously, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix. I think Dillon Gabriel, there's a reason why there's a lot of hype behind his name. He's going to end up being that guy that is a veteran transfer quarterback that blossoms into a Heisman level contender. And I'm also just buying into Oregon. Oregon's going to be one of the best programs in the country. I think, I've, dabbled in the fact that they might win the Big Ten. Obviously, you have Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. It's a loaded conference, but, Oregon's trajectory is what fascinates me. Will Howard, I'm not trying to disrespect, but I don't think there's a chance. You may be like, oh my gosh, it's an Ohio State quarterback. He's going to be on the best roster in the country They have the best defense potentially in the country. They have so many wide receivers, so many running backs. I think they're not going to ask him to be a playmaker. He's just going to be a game manager, and they're going to get him to a lot of wins. Maybe that gets him an invitation, but I don't see the world where he is a Heisman winner or even really in that contention. No disrespect to Will Howard. I think he's a solid quarterback, but we're not talking about the CJ Strouds of the world, the Justin Fields of the world. And I don't think what they're going to ask out of their quarterbacks is not going to be a lot of dynamic plays. I think he's going to have to just get the job done. And I think if for Ohio State, if he was on a Stetson Bennett level of just, managing the game, making a couple plays, that would be perfect for him. That would potentially win him a national title. But I wouldn't put that as a, lock invitation to New York. I don't see that world. Nico, I'm going to say down the line. Nico time is here in Tennessee, and I'm so excited for it. He's one of the most talented players in the country, and he showed a lot of flashes of that bowl game, just making smart plays. And I don't know if we've been able to really unlock that level of, high-end play because we just haven't seen it. And Tennessee is one of those teams that has been able to mold their offense to the players and the roster that they have. We obviously saw it last year with 2 years ago with Hendon Hooker being that high air raid offense. And then this past year, it's Jalen Wright running the ball. Joe Milton, as talented as he is, he's just not going to be a guy that you're going to rely on as the crutch of your offense. Nico is one of those guys that you can rely on. And I think they could be a high-flying offense. I think guys like Squirrel Wright, I believe is still on the roster. I would be very upset if a name like that has left the college football world and I didn't know about it. But they have plenty of talent on this roster. I think the defense is going to be really good. I just don't know, is this the year that he takes the step? Is this the year that he hops into Heisman contention, or does he prime himself to being that, odds-on favorite, that he has just a good enough year? Maybe Tennessee isn't on that level of, they're in that 12-team playoff, or maybe he has an up and down start and maybe he gets hot towards the end and then starts to be like too little too late of production. I don't know. I think he has all the talent to be in this conversation, but I think it's just down the line. Cam Ward could be a Heisman winner. I really think he could be a Heisman winner. I think we're talking about a quarterback with a lot of, like, he's an NFL player. He's at least an NFL quarterback that someone would have drafted this past season. Would have been a high draft pick? No, but I think he saw the scope, same as Quinn Ewers, honestly, the scope of what that quarterback class looked like and saw next year's and was like, maybe I could be the guy that takes that next step and is the quarterback one. He's going to be in an offense that I think is going to be pretty good. And I think the talent in Miami, same with like A&M over the past couple of years, the talent is not a question. It's whether they put it all together. And I think the schedule favors them. I think the ACC, even though you have the scariness of like, Florida State, Clemson, Miami's right in that conversation, and the odds favor them that, maybe they are a team that surprises people and wins the ACC. And with the 12-team playoff, like I've said before, like that's going to give Miami an opportunity that they don't have to be a top 4 team to, have the shine, the spotlight on them. And Cam Ward is a talented enough player that I think he could be invited to New York and potentially be the one that's hoisting that trophy. Let's speed run for a couple of these. Riley Leonard, I could see it. I just don't know. Maybe a couple of things go their way. Notre Dame is going to have a lot of opportunities. I think he's a good kid. He's going to have a big spotlight moment in Kyle Field. So, maybe that's what kicks off the Heisman campaign. And it would be a major win against his former coach. I'm talking myself into it, but I still think he's in that I could see it tier. Noah Fafita, I could see it. It's tough with the Big 12 quarterbacks, and it's something that we'll talk about as we get a little bit farther down the line. I think the Big 12 is just such a mixed bag that it's going to be no one that I feel confident, putting my foot forward and saying, this is the guy that I think could win the Heisman. And he's going to have a great year. He's got Ted McMillan. The defense is going to be solid. The head coaching change concerns me, but also I feel like if he didn't buy into the head coach, he would have left. And maybe it's down the line because he's still a young quarterback, and I might actually put him in there because I don't know if this is the year that he puts it all together. But then again, I don't know if there's that opportunity down the line because Tet most likely will be leaving in the NFL. And most times you need some NFL caliber players around you to help uplift that. Avery Johnson, I'm going to say not a chance. I think he's going to have a great year. He's going to have an incredible amount of stats. I think Kansas State is really good. but I don't know if he gets the shine compared to these guys that he ends up being a Heisman level winner. And it's just tough with the Big 12 quarterbacks. Connor Wigman, I think Connor Wigman's going to be a great quarterback. I think Texas A&M, I'm do it to the day I die, where I just buy into this hype blindly and I talk myself into it. I drink the maroon Kool-Aid. The thing that's stopping me from Connor Wigman, and I'm not going to say not a chance, I'm going to say I could see it. Connor Wigman just has to stay healthy. And I think with Colin Klein as his OC, I go through the same story every single time. I think they're going to be a running-based team. I think Connor Wigman just has to stay healthy. That's been the curse with A&M for a lot of years. Outside of the Jimbo Fisher thing and everything around that, they've been dealing with a lot of injuries from Haynes King, Jalen Henderson, Connor Wigman. To their bowl game against Oklahoma State, they had a fourth-string quarterback playing. A fourth-string, Marcel Reed, I believe, was the final straw of just like, we're throwing a true freshman out there. I could see it if he just stays healthy because he has he's one of the more talented quarterbacks in the entire country. And I think he's going to be in a situation that's better fit for his skill set this upcoming year outside of a guy like Jimbo Fisher. Jackson Arnold, I think, is down the line. I just don't know if Oklahoma's going to have a good enough offensive line to handle a full year. They're also dealing with a buzzsaw of a schedule. Now, if he comes out unscathed in that, yeah, damn sure he could win the Heisman. He has the talent to do so. But Jackson Arnold, I don't know if the schedule, the offensive line, I think the wide receiver room is one of the most underrated wide receiver rooms in the entire country. I think Oklahoma is going to be a really fun team, but I think his personal, through the scope of the Heisman, it's down the line for him. It's his first year starting. He's going to be one of the more odds-on favorites, I think, next year, but I don't see it where I could see Nico this year, taking that step. I don't know if everything is going to go Oklahoma's way for him to win the Heisman. Now, I will say this, just side note, most underrated game in the country, Tennessee versus Oklahoma. The two quarterbacks I was just talking about, oh my gosh, game of the week potential. Based off of hype alone, I could see it with Shedeur Sanders. I could see it. I wouldn't invite him off rip, not saying I would never invite him, let me be clear, but just off of hype alone, and if Colorado really gets the wheels spinning, he has a chance. We've seen what the Colorado hype train can do. I just don't believe in Colorado, and I don't think that the schedule and the wins and everything around it is going to get him to be an invite. Will it mean that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country? Sure, but he had a great statistical year last year, and he wasn't invited. You can put up a lot of great stats. It doesn't mean that you're going to be invited to the Heisman. You need a lot of things going your way. When we're talking about guys like Milroe, Dart, Ewers, Gabriel, even Cam Ward, I think those guys are guys that are going to be in the playoff. Now, if Colorado is in that playoff picture, he could damn near be the favorite. He damn near could be the favorite, but I don't think it's going to happen. If I'm making a prediction here, I don't think it's going to happen. Just like I don't think it's going to happen with Brady Cook. This feels like a situation where Brady Cook is going to, blossom into this elite level player, and I'm just not going to see it happen, or I'm not going to see it coming at all. I think he was an inconsistent player last year. I think Luther Burden's really good. I think they're going to have a really good opportunity with that schedule being a very light schedule. Just do I think Brady Cook is a guy that takes that next step to a Heisman level? I just don't think so. DJU has all the talent in the world. He's going to be on a great roster. I'm just not falling for the bait. I'm just not going to fall for the bait for him. It is second transfer. We go through the same story. Prove me wrong. I would be open to it. He's super talented. I'm not falling for the bait. Evan Stewart, I just put him up there because a lot of my friends were saying that he potentially could do so. I'm not believing in a wide receiver. And if he is in that conversation, Dylan Gabriel is probably winning the award. So, no, I could see it with Travis Hunter just because I'm going to respect the talent and he's such an anomaly. So, if we're talking about the Heisman and we want to mention Travis Hunter, I'm not going to shoot it down. I'm not going to say there's not a chance that it doesn't happen because I'm not going to apply the same defensive award candidates. I guess the classification or what we look for in a defensive Heisman because he's just such an anomaly. I'm not going to treat an anomaly of a talent the same as I do for everyone else. So I think I could see it I wouldn't bet on it because he's a defensive player at the end of the day, but he's going to make enough plays. And if Colorado's in that contention, Shedeur probably ends up winning it, but I think Travis, there's a world. Maybe Shedeur gets hurt and Travis goes crazy and they end up still making the playoff. There is a road. It's just a very narrow road that if you want to see Travis Hunter win Heisman and he's hoisting that award, it's a tough road to go down. Cade Klubnik, I'm playing not a chance. It's the same logic with DJU. I like Garrett Riley. I don't like Clemson overall. And I think the wide receiver room would have to take a major step in order for me to believe in it. Cam Ward. Not Cam Ward. Cam Rising. What am I talking about? Cam Rising. I'm going to say not a chance. I think they're going to be good enough, but I just don't know if he's going to be someone that maybe we should have had it this close the whole time. It's fine. Yeah, so this is the list. I don't have to give a lot of deep reasoning for Cam Rising. I just think he's going to be good to damn near great. The injuries, I don't know what he's going to look like. He hasn't played football in a year, and we've seen what that has done for other quarterbacks. We have to pick my Heisman favorite. And I think with my explanation, I made it pretty clear. I'm going with Jalen Milroe. I think he is my Heisman favorite this year. I think he's going to be the one that's hoisting that trophy. Just all the signs point in the trajectory that, when you lose Nick Saban, the narratives around it, all the ingredients are there for him to win Heisman. And I think this is what's going to happen this upcoming December. So let me know your thoughts. I know this is a very long video. If you're new here, welcome. Give me a shot. That's all I ask in this world is just give me a shot. I love talking about football and analysis and trying to get through the summer with you guys because, you're not alone in feeling the offseason. I miss football just as much as you do. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you for giving me another opportunity to talk football with you. And have a fantastic day. I'll see y'all next time.